me to just play it. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. So glad you're making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing well, Chris. And you know what? That Thursday night football game, it was something. It was something. Surprisingly, though, that score, like there was offense, at least for one side.
So I'm making my DraftKings picks last night, Mo, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, should I just throw out a couple of lineups with, assuming some points are scored? And then I'm like, no, because they're not going to score points, because what has either of these teams done the past month that would convince me that either of them are going to score more than 14 points?
Agreed.
So I don't. And then, of course, we see what happens. And I did not cash in last night because everyone who had Bailey Zappi and Henry on their team cashed. And I did have Zeke on all my teams because I really thought he would be the only offensive weapon that New England had last night. And it looked that way early, but it wasn't the case towards the end. Mo, I don't know what Bill Belichick is doing, because so the first quarter ends last night, okay? And they have 97 passing yards in the first quarter. That's the most passing yards since Tom Brady was their quarterback, okay? So that's literally the most successful first quarter Bill Belichick has had as a head coach passing the football since Tom Brady left. In the first half, Bailey Zappi goes 14 for 21 for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then, Mo, I feel like they went into the locker room and Bill Belichick was like, that's whoa. We don't do that. We don't score points. We are a defensive team. We win with defense. Because when he came back out in the second half, Mo, Bailey Zappi went 5 for 7 for 44 yards and an interception as the Pittsburgh Steelers were mounting a comeback. What the hell was that? You found something that worked in the first half. Clearly, he was finding open receivers. Clearly, they couldn't cover the tight end. And then if you just look at his numbers in the second half, he still completed 5 of 7 of his passes. So it's not like he came out and went, 4 for 13 and Pittsburgh just shut down the pass game. And they're like, well, no, we're not going to turn the ball over 3 times and give the game away. He was still finding open receivers in these 7 opportunities that you gave him while almost giving up the game on defense. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that, Mo.
I felt like because they had the explosion in the first half with the 21 points, I felt like Belichick went into halftime and said, we need to run the ball. We need to stall the clock out. We need to end this game quickly. Like, I thought the entire second half he coached not to lose. And I don't know, maybe it's in his own head that he wanted that win so bad, but it was and I'm not saying that Pittsburgh didn't give a better effort defensively, but the way the Patriots played offense helped Pittsburgh's defense. And that's, to me, that's on your head coach. Like, why would you quit? Why would you let your foot off the gas? Like you said, you found something. Stay aggressive, throw the football. And only 7 pass attempts the entire second half. That is the opposite of aggressive, of competing. And I watched the game and I'm just like, they're not even trying to win. They're just not trying to lose.
And I get it if it's the fourth quarter. I get it if it's late in the game. You don't want Zappi's known to make mistakes. You don't want to keep throwing it around the yard, when the game is kind of in hand and you should be running the clock out. But when you come out in the third quarter, get yourself another score. They didn't score. They didn't score in the second half. The second half was the Patriots we've seen the past 2 months. That was the Patriots I bet on DraftKings last night.
That's what I was expecting.
We don't move the ball. We don't score points. But when you do it in the first half, I thought, okay, they're going to come out in the second half. They're going to score another 7 or 10 points, and then they're going to try to ice it away. And then they're going to play the long game. I didn't think they were going to come out and start playing the long game from the first possession of the third quarter. And then, and let's be honest, and I'm sorry, Mike Tomlin and his crew deserve some criticism here. What are we doing on 4th and 2 throwing the deep ball? What are we? Get the first down. Like, come on.
A deep sideline fade on 4th and 2.
Correct. It's not like he was open and Trubisky missed him. All right? That's not what it was. It wasn't a perfectly drawn up play and you had it, but you didn't execute it. It was a 50-50 ball at best. On that's the best you have.
That's a terrible play call. It's just a terrible play call.
Mo, I hate to say it, and I'm sorry if we have Pittsburgh Steelers fans listening, but congratulations, you just knocked yourself out of the playoffs. You should have won last week against a very bad team. You should have won this week against a very bad team. Even if you split those games, you would probably be okay, and you would still be in the conversation come the final couple weeks of the season. Now, you're not making the playoffs at this point. You're not in it right now. If you look at the playoff records this morning, and let me pull it up real quick, and I'll tell you exactly what we're dealing with here. They're down to 7-6, so that's the first issue. So they're the 7th seed or the 8th seed right now because of their loss last night. Elevating up as a result of that are the Houston Texans at 7-5. So automatically you're hoping that somewhere the Browns, the Colts, the Texans lose games. Oh, but by the way, if Denver, Cincinnati, or Buffalo win their next set of games, they're tied with you. So you're literally in the middle of the circus. And then, oh, by the way, you still play teams like Baltimore this season. You still play the Seahawks. You still play the Bengals. You still play the Colts. You play 2 teams in the Colts and the Bengals who are literally also fighting for their playoff lives.
Right.
And you play a much better team. You're not going to beat the Ravens. I'm sorry. You're not. And then the Seahawks, maybe, I don't know, depends on what version of the Seahawks we get, but they're probably playing for their playoff lives as well. I'm not saying you can't win those games. What I'm saying is, Mo, you had 2 layups. You had 2 layups last week and this week. You're supposed to be this in the running for the division. Essentially, if you win those 2 games, you're probably still in the division conversation. And you go out there and you're great defense and you lose to these 2 teams. I don't know.
And everybody was excited because a couple of weeks back they had their first 400-yard total offense game.
Right.
Remember they changed offensive coordinators.
Right.
This guy is
going to all
Matt
Canada's fault. It's all Canada's fault.
He's going to open up the playbook, and guess what? That was literally a blip. This offensive coordinator is as inept as the last one. And to be fair to both coordinators, that also has a lot to do with the talent you have to work with.
Correct.
Or lack thereof, especially at the quarterback position. When Trubisky is an upgrade, that's not good. That's not a good sign. And he looked more like the Trubisky I was used to. And look, I don't know what you expect. I think that because of his athletic ability, you thought he can use his legs, he can extend plays, and that is an asset, but he didn't really use that asset. And even then, with all that ineptness, they had a chance to win the football game.
Oh, yeah, because the Patriots stopped trying to score.
This is true.
They hit their quota for points for the game, and they're like, hey, we're
Somebody
done
in
here.
Vegas was like, you've already done way too much.
Right,
Slow
knock
down.
it off. Calm down over there. For the Patriots, Mo, I mean, great win, but you're killing yourself on the back end because Zappy's not your future. And I've already seen the message boards this morning. Patriots fans are all hyped about what he did. Did you not watch the second half? Like, Zappy's not your guy. I'm sorry. You're getting further away from drafting one because you want to go out there and win games. So I don't know. I don't know where the Patriots are going to end up.
Oh, don't worry. Zappy will be back to his normal self next week. It'll be fine. Like, look, the name Zappy alone, it's fun to say, but when I hear Zappy, I'm thinking probably a punter, right? Probably a punter.
It's tough. It's tough. Obviously you're not trying to actively tank, Mo. They're going out there. They're competing. I get that, but it's tough because now you're in a situation where you're losing ground on your top pick in the draft as far as getting a quarterback. It was a meaningless game for them. Pittsburgh, I don't even know what to say on their end. Your defense is supposed to be a top 10 defense, and you're letting Bailey Zappi throw the ball all over the yard in the first half. I mean, Hunter Henry's out there playing like Travis Kelce, and I get it. Trubisky is limited as a quarterback, but you have to come in with a better game plan than that. And situationally, and I know, I saw, Bill Belichick owns Mike Tomlin, and I get the narrative, but this isn't Big Ben and Tom Brady. It's not. Like, you're not competing for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Steeler fans need to be honest this morning. They laid eggs 2 weeks in a row, and I don't think they're going to recover from that.
They did. And look, I'm a big Mike Tomlin guy, but when you're the head coach and you lose 2 games you're supposed to win, some of that does fall on you. It does. It just does. And I think Mike Tomlin knows that. I think, like you already alluded to, I think they're in danger of not making the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't. And really, honestly, I don't know how they were in contention. We talked about this yesterday.
It's true.
You have one of the most inept offenses, if not the most inept. And I would have said it was the Patriots, but after last night, I guess Pittsburgh's worse than the Patriots.
Right.
So I don't know how you were even in contention for the playoffs because your offense kills your defense all the time. And like I said, I think Mike Tomlin takes some accountability for that. I don't think like his job is in danger or anything, but you know how fan bases are. At some point, they reach that red zone where they're looking at the coach, no matter what his history is with you, and you start going like, I don't know if he's the guy for the team anymore, or what's that line? I don't think they're listening to his voice anymore,
right?
or all those kind of things. And I would say to Pittsburgh Steelers fans, they're listening to him fine. You just have really bad quarterbacks.
I wonder what it looks like when they stop listening to the head coach, right? Because we hear that in Washington with Ron Rivera. Like, what does that look like, Mo? When the locker room is it just chaos? Like, Ron Rivera's talking and it's like a zoo in there. Like,
right?
What does it look like when they're not listening?
Ron Rivera's in there talking, but everybody's talking. You know what I mean? And Ron Rivera's like, quiet down, settle down, and they're like, no, you settle down, you be quiet. Like, I really think it looks like some kind of like a scene from a college zoo or so. It's just out of control. I've always wondered, just like you, what does that scene look like? Because you hear reporters and media members always say, he's lost the locker room. Like they don't listen to him no more. Like, what does that look like? Like, is it really to the point where guys are on their phones, they're checking out TikToks while the coach is talking? Like, is it that bad?
And Ron's just like, well, they stopped listening to me, so.
Right. I've lost the room.
Nothing I can do about it, guys. You see it, I see it.
I'm gonna leave Bieniemy. You talk to him because they don't listen to me anymore.
Mo, is it another version of the same conversation when it comes to defensive head coaches? Because it's a narrative, it's a cliche at this point, but isn't this the reason it's a cliche? Because you keep seeing these defensive head coaches have good defenses, and then they're wildly inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball for various reasons. And this isn't the only team we've seen it with. There's 6 or 7 in the league right now that we could talk about, but you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I draw these comparisons between the Steelers and the Jets, and even though the Steelers are a better team, just listen to Mike Tomlin and Saleh talk about their quarterbacks. And you almost sit there and you almost want to be like, what are you on? There's no way you're watching the same thing we're all watching. And yeah, it's more ridiculous with Saleh, but I don't feel like Tomlin's any better because he'll defend Kenny Pickett, and he is the rah-rah guy for Kenny Pickett. And reporters have directly asked him, do you think, Pickett's confidence is down? Do you think that Pickett needs to get better at this or that? And he defends Pickett to no end. Doesn't he realize what? And I know he's not going to go out there and kill his quarterback, Mo. But at the same time, like, where's the line to hold your guy accountable? Or where's the line to be like, we got to get better on the offensive side? Like, and I know it's a fine line, but at the same time, you can't go out there, week after week and just prop Kenny Pickett up when clearly he's part of the issue on the offensive side of the ball.
And I think that Tomlin is one of those coaches that truly believes he can speak it into existence. That he can motivate you to the point where you can go above and beyond your actual talent and skill set. And he's had success that way. But like you said, you have to look at your quarterback realistically and go, we have to get better offensively, but we've got to get better, more effective quarterback play. The quarterback is the leader of your offense, right? Correct? It's the leader of your offense. And I think that all the other guys at the skill positions, they take their cues from your quarterback. They get in that huddle, and if your quarterback looks lost, they're looking around like, this guy's lost. That's how they feel. And I think there's a frustration there. And I think the other players on the offense, they're looking at Mike Tomlin like, what are you seeing? What are you talking about? This guy's in the huddle asking us what the play is. Like there's a frustration there, I think. And we talked about this. You can talk about it with the Jets and their defense, the Steelers and their defense. Any defense that has to deal with an inept or ineffective quarterback where they're on the field too often, it impacts your locker room as a whole. And you're looking to the coach like, hey, coach, you and the OC got to get together and figure this thing out because it's killing us. And I think Tomlin's in a situation where they just fired Canada, right? And you bring in another offensive coordinator. He had that blip moment, and now they look like they did under Canada. He can't go after the OC again, can he? I don't think he can. So I think he's trying to tread the line. I'm the coach. I believe we can win football games. We will find a way. And that's been the Mike Tomlin formula. And look, the season's not over. It's not over. But I'm looking at their offense, and unless the other team is as bad offensively, I don't know how they can win football games.
And they got the Bengals, maybe. I mean, I think Jake Browning played way over his skis his last game. I don't think he's that guy. So maybe not,
but he's better than any quarterback Pittsburgh has.
Oh, for sure. But maybe that's a guy that defense can break down and you beat Cincinnati. Okay, that's 8 wins. I don't know. Are you going to get another win between the Colts, the Seahawks, and the Ravens? I don't know. I mean, you're not beating the Ravens, I don't think. So
defense, special teams, maybe you get another 160-yard rushing from your back combo,
right?
Something like that. I mean, those are ways you can win, but that's so much easier said than done. You don't think the Ravens know, like, well, they can't throw the football.
Right.
We're gonna play 8 or 9 men in the box. We're not afraid of them throwing the football. You don't think they know that? So I don't know how they win more than 1 or 2 more games. I don't think they're going to the playoffs, period. I hate to be a downer, Steeler fans. I'm just looking ahead. The smoke and mirrors train, I think it's come to an end. I just don't think you're going to win enough to get into the playoffs. Your football team, balance-wise, is not balanced. And maybe this goes to that point that Brady made a couple of weeks back when he said it's mediocrity. I think that he was talking about the quarterback position because there's a short list of guys that you can win even when the team itself isn't playing well. They can carry you. There's not a lot of those guys in the NFL.
And Mo, just so you know, after the game last night, the Patriots were saying they ain't afraid of no towels. Just so you're aware. Just so you know where we stand today.
Just put it out there, huh?
Ain't afraid of no towels, all right?
Okay.
Story came out yesterday. It's intriguing. I read it. I mean, the guy who wrote it got what he needed from me. I read the whole entire thing. It was a 3-part series. It's basically an assassination job of Sean McDermott in Buffalo. He's criticizing basically everything he's ever done in Buffalo, from the way he builds rapport with his players to the way that he has managed Josh Allen to the way that he has managed the offense to things that we've talked about, his inability to establish a running game, his inability to fix the offensive line. It was very evident that the author of this 3-part piece does not like Sean McDermott and does not think he should be the coach of the Buffalo Bills, which he is obviously a fan of. That being said, he chose to throw out some stuff in there, specifically two things. And they're awkward. I'm not going to sit here and defend Sean McDermott. I don't know why he did these things. But I want to get your take on what exactly we're trying to do in the bigger picture. So he drudges up, I almost call it stupid because I don't know a better word for it. But he drudges up a conversation that McDermott had with the team during training camp from 2019. And basically what he did, and I don't know why he did this, but he compared he used teamwork and coming together and unifying. But the backdrop for that were the terrorists from 9/11 and how they worked together and how they came together to execute a plan. And again, really poor choice as far as a comparison. And he didn't just reference the terrorist attacks of 9/11. He actually questioned his players. So he said things to the room like, and how do you think they came together? And why do you think their plan? Like he took it that extra step further, right? And he was like, and what do you think their biggest obstacle was? And according to the reporter, one of the players said TSA, and it made some guys laugh, and it kind of broke, the awkwardness of the room. That was in 2019. Then in 2021, he tells the story. Apparently in 2021, there was a news story in the Buffalo area. This female drove her car into an access point of Niagara Falls. And because it was an access point, she got herself into the river barreling towards the falls. And her car got stuck about 50 meters before the actual drop off. And there was an attempted rescue, and they ended up not being able to rescue her. And he's like giving the whole breakdown of this story and the harrowing rescue attempt. And apparently players are waiting for that moment, right? That moment of why we're telling the story. And then at the end of the story, he basically just and they couldn't rescue her, and she died, and her car fell off the falls, and the story just ends.
And the message?
And there was none. There was none, apparently. So players are just why? And the author describes it as there was awkward laughter because they couldn't believe that he went through this whole story. And there was a climax, and you thought the crescendo was coming, and then she dies, and that's just the end of it. And he moved on to his next thought. Clearly, those are two really bad examples of him trying to deliver messages to the team, right? Not defending him. The first one is in extremely poor taste, especially since you coach in New York State. So, you're literally coaching in the state where it happened. So, don't know what you were trying to accomplish with that. Don't even know why that comparison crossed your mind. If I'm trying to motivate a group of athletes and I'm talking about teamwork, Mo, I don't think that comparison ever comes into my brain. But for whatever reason, it did. So clearly, it's fair to say he's socially awkward. That was minimum. Weird. Those are both weird and uncomfortable situations. My question to you, Mo, is he apologized in 2019 for it. According to several sources, he apologized literally right after that part of the meeting, said he shouldn't have talked about that. He apologized the day after. I don't think he apologized for the Niagara Fall things. I think that was just a weird story he told. The story came out earlier this week. He addressed it yesterday when he was speaking to the media. He apologized for it again. He gave whatever excuse he gave, said it wasn't appropriate. He shouldn't have talked about it. He explained why he did it, and then he cut it off. They asked follow-up questions. He deflected and said, we're not talking about that now. I already addressed it. Let's move on. Why is this being brought up, Mo? Why? It happened. It's already been talked about. There are so many points you can make about why Sean McDermott shouldn't be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills.
Just football points
that are just related to football. In my opinion, it's a clear assassination piece. You're just trying to bring up. And let's be honest. I mean, we saw the reaction in our group chat this morning. There were some people that didn't know about this back in 2019. So it's like new news, right? It's new news that's hitting the news cycle again because of this piece. And that's why he has to address it, because the Buffalo media knew about it when it happened back in 2019. The New York media knew about it, but it wasn't a national headline. Clearly. Well, now it is. Now it's a national headline. So now he has to address it again. And he's not dodging it. But for me, Mo, I look at the situation and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, I get it. Like, he said it, so he should be responsible for his own words. But at the same time, I feel like if you're going to be a part of the media, isn't there some sort of a responsibility on your end? Like, why are we doing this? And I feel my hands feel dirty looking at it. Like, I don't think there's any good intent here. I don't think there's any good reporting merit here. I think you're just trying to cause trouble for the sake of causing trouble. And that's BS if you ask me. Like, do better.
If you want him out, he might just get put out on his own merits as a football coach.
If they miss the playoffs, which
right.
they might.
They're going to have those exit interviews and they're going to be like, Sean, we're going to need your parking space keys and all that kind of stuff. Like that's going to happen if they don't make the playoffs on his own merits, but that you have to try to add more to it to make him look like he's not a decent human being. Now, to be fair, when I'm thinking of making analogies to my team about teamwork, I might think of Ray Lewis's 2000 Ravens or something like that, or the Golden State Warriors a couple of years ago when nobody thought they were going to win and it came out of nowhere and they won that year, or something like that. Or even what's the great hockey story we always talk about with Michael Ruzioni, the Olympic something like that is a great story of teamwork. I don't know about bringing up tragedies to make a teamwork analogy. And like you said, the last one was even more bizarre because it was, and then she fell off and they couldn't rescue her and she died. What is that? Like you got a lot more time in your hands, Sean, than you need to. Like get a hobby, man. Play some Madden, do something, get some friends outside of football. But to the bigger picture, this reporter to me has clearly got an agenda, doesn't like him on a personal level, right?
Clearly.
And wants him out of there. And I just think that the way he went about it, it is shiesty, it's underhanded. And like you said, this isn't new news because it wasn't a national story, but it's being presented as new news because a lot of us, including myself, I knew nothing of this. And so now people want to attack Sean McDermott and go, what do you mean? So you like the way the terrorists went about their work.
Right.
And that I'm sure that's not what he meant. That's
Correct.
not what he meant. And I don't want to speak for him, but I'm pretty sure that's not what he meant, even though it may register that way. He just made a poor analogy, period.
Well, we talked yesterday about the ineptitude of the Jacksonville Jaguars because when the most valuable person in your entire franchise, and I'm talking top to bottom, owner to the person who cleans the concessions, when the most valuable person in your entire franchise might have a broken ankle, literally cannot walk, you don't send them a golf cart? Ineptitude. We talked about this. But then a story comes out yesterday, Mo, about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it just further improves, in my opinion, the ineptitude of this organization. A story comes out yesterday that a former employee, he was fired in February of this year, a former employee of the Jacksonville Jaguars was fired in February of 2023 after it was discovered that he stole $22 million from the team over a 4-year period. Mo, if there is one thing we know that we can unequivocally say about NFL owners, it is that they love their money. They love to make money. They love to have money. They love to count their money. They don't like to give away their money, especially to running backs. They love their money. How in the hell did you lose $22 million over 4 years and not realize it, Shad Khan? What operation? How much money do you have where 22 large is walking out the door and it took you 4 years to figure out? Like
He's that rich.
He's that rich? Come
He's that
on
rich.
now.
He's that guy. I would say who made the mistake in accounting, but I'm assuming the thief was an accountant, right?
He was.
There you go. That's why you couldn't find the mistake, because the guy hit it pretty well for a while. Till somebody looked at the corner of their eye and go, "Is that true? That figure right there? Is that true?"
That's a lot of millions, Mo, walking out the door.
Or he came to work and they go, "You can afford a Maybach? Wow." On your salary?
Apparently he had a gambling addiction. Apparently a lot of it went to gambling. Wow. Apparently he wasn't winning.
So he thought, I need to borrow a few dollars, close up. I get you. I'm good for it.
The Jags are good for it.
Wow. $22 million, and it took 4 years for somebody to go, I think we're missing a few dollars.
Right. I think something's a little off here. Someone should look into that. Mo, last night, big night for your team last night. The Los Angeles Lakers punched their ticket to Vegas. They are going to be going up against the Pacers for the in-season tournament championship. The Lakers have already alluded to the fact that, they're not hanging banners for this or anything like that. I think the league might call them and say, hey, can you please hang the banner if you win? We would like you to not spit in the face of this tournament.
Let's make this a big deal.
Right. So you don't got to talk about it, but we're gonna need you to put the banner up.
100%. Look, I wasn't surprised that the Lakers are gonna go to the finals. I thought they would win this tournament. I am impressed, obviously, by the young Indiana Pacers and what they've been able to do. And I actually thought Milwaukee would win that game. And those Pacers, man, they're relentless. And Halliburton is playing out of his mind. So it's great that the Lakers were able to win. I was disappointed, just from a fan standpoint, of the effort or the lack of effort that the Pelicans put up in that game. Like, that game was decided to me in the first quarter. You could, body language tells you everything. They looked like they had mailed it in. Zion Williamson was sleepwalking. He gave no effort. He was all about quit last night, and his teammates took his lead. They didn't compete. You can lose by 20. You can play as hard as you want sometimes and lose by 20. But when you lose by 40 plus, you have quit. You have stopped competing. You have surrendered, and that was disappointing.
Mo, is there anything to be said for? And we see this a lot with younger teams. This is usually where the conversation comes in. You get a younger team, you put them in a 7-game series against a veteran team. Over a series that long, the cream is going to rise to the top. They might steal a couple of games, but it's hard, right? It's hard for a younger team, even if they're hyper athletic, even if they're hyper fast. 7 games is a long series. And every now and then you see these arguments of, if they just shorten up the series, you're going to have more upsets. You're going to have more opportunities for a team like the Pacers to go and blow the doors off in game 1. And now if it's only a 3 or 5 game series, well, now business is picking up. Sure. If they blow the doors off in game 1, it's a 7-game series. A lot of these teams are like, we just flew in yesterday. We thought we might lose this game. It doesn't really matter. We're fine. And most times they are. Do you see any not relevance, but do you see any merit to the talking point of shortening up some of these series earlier in the playoffs to maybe create more parity for these teams?
Well, I think if you shorten series up, I think back in the day, they used to have best of 5. And maybe even further back, best of 3. But if you shorten up these series, yes, a young team like the Pacers can steal game 1. And suddenly in a short series, the veteran team is behind the anchor, and they're kind of staggered. That there could be upsets if you shorten series up. If you play like how we do it now, 7-game series, think of it this way. In the history of the NBA, there's never been a team where its core was 25 and under and they won the championship. That doesn't exist. That core doesn't exist. The closest core to come to doing that would have been the Durant Thunders, and they lost in 5. So you can be young-ish where you have guys that are in their mid to late 20s, but they still have other veterans on that team. It's a young man's game in the regular season. If you don't have veterans, usually the older teams they win long series. That's just a reality of the NBA. But if you shorten it, I think it does open up the doors for upsets. And I think it would become every bit as exciting as college basketball to some degree. It would. Now, I'm not sure that every fan base would embrace that, but to me, just for the fact that it would open up the possibility of a young upstart team coming in and winning, I think that's an exciting prospect. It really is. And I'm kind of old school with the NBA, but I'm always opened up to something new that can make the game a little bit more competitive.
Obviously, since LeBron and the Lakers are in the finals, you get that conversation point of, oh, it's rigged. They rigged it. They wanted LeBron there, and you know it's nonsense.
If it's rigged, though, wouldn't LeBron be playing Giannis?
Right.
Ideally, if it's rigged, you want the two best and the biggest marquee names to play against each other. And no disrespect to the Pacers, who I love watching play. But if it was rigged, they wouldn't be in the finals.
Mo, I would almost argue it's better if the Pacers win this, because we already know the narrative. If the Lakers win it, they said it. We're not hanging banners. You know, we have bigger plans this season. We want to contend for an NBA championship. Eye on the prize. This is great. We had a great time doing it. We were glad to be here. Happy we won. Let's move on. You get a team like Indiana who wins it, who, you know, they're not talked about right now in that championship conversation, right? They kind of came out of nowhere for this in-season tournament. Many people thought they were going to lose to the Bucks last night. So you get a young team that has the fire like the Pacers have. Who knows, right? Maybe this kind of elevates the second part of the season, or we got 3/4 of the season left. But, you know, maybe it kind of puts a little pep in their step. I don't know. Am I just talking out my butt right now? Like,
no, I'm with you. I think that Adam Silver loves this. He loves this, but he would love it even more if the Pacers found a way to win it all, right? It to me, it just solidifies the idea of what you can do within the scheme of an in-season tournament. And you know the Pacers, look, they're a young team. If they win, those guys are going to be running around like they won the NCAA, and it's okay.
It will be. It will be a real championship celebration if they win.
They will put up banners. They will wear the shirts, whatever the trophy is going to look like, because obviously this is a first. They are going to celebrate that. And I'm a Laker fan, so I'm rooting for my team. But if the Pacers win, I'm here for that too, because I think that's bigger and better for the league in the bigger scheme.
There will be champagne. There will be goggles. It will look like it will. It will look like an NBA championship was just won, and rightfully so, because when you're a team that doesn't really win stuff, and then you knock off the Bucks and you potentially knock off the Lakers, celebrate, like live. So
maybe a little mini parade in downtown Indy,
right? You know, something. You know,
let's check that out. I might check that out.
All right, Mel, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to get into our Week 14 picks. Every game this week has some sort of playoff implication for at least one of the teams involved. So we got a lot to break down. We're going to do that on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show on Sports Empire Network.
Hey, y'all, I'm Key.
And I'm Jory, and tune in to Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens every Saturday at 5 p.m. over on Sports Empire Network.
And don't forget, also watch us on Roku TV at Northeast Streaming Productions. So tune in.
Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. And Mo, just saw this come across my timeline. Zion said that he has got to do better and that he was too laid back in the loss last night.
That's an understatement, but yeah, sure. Yeah. yeah. You got to do better. Yeah, do better.
Self-reflection.
Just show up and compete, young man. That's all I'm saying. Compete.
All right, Mel, let's start getting into the Week 14 matchups. Let's start with the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Big game. Like I said, everyone's got at least one team here that has something going on. This game has two. The Buffalo Bills are trying to stay pace in the AFC playoff picture right now. They are the 11th seed coming into the weekend at 6-6, tied with the Bengals and the Broncos, trying to catch up with the Steelers, the Texans, the Colts, and the Cleveland Browns. The Chiefs, on the other hand, are 8-4. They are currently tied with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They hold the 3rd seed in the AFC. They are hoping to make up ground on the Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens to get closer to the top. Buffalo's coming off a bye, so Buffalo's had a lot of time to think about this game, Mo, and prepare for this game. Josh Allen might have just played his best game of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles in a losing effort before the bye. So if you're a Buffalo fan, I understand why you're feeling confident coming into this. Josh Allen off his best game of the season, coming off a bye with plenty of time to prepare for this game. But I also look at the other side and I say, okay, but Andy Reid needs home field advantage. Andy Reid does not want to be traveling on the road to Baltimore or Miami for the playoffs. Not with this team, not in this current roster setup. They need to be at home. Home field advantage is super important for whoever gets it in the AFC. I would say more so than the last handful of years. So because of that, even though Buffalo is kind of fighting for their playoff lives and Kansas City is just fighting for seeding, Mo, I would argue it's pretty much the same fight, because I don't think Kansas City is going to make noise if they're a 4 seed and they have to go on the road after the opening round of the playoffs. So I'm taking the Chiefs in a close one.
And this might be the best game of a weekend where there's going to be a lot of big games with playoff implications. I rarely go against Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not going to go against him this week. I know we've talked about their issues and their shortcomings of their receiving core, and you could tell me Buffalo has more playmakers on the outside, because they do.
They do.
And if you just lined up the team talent for talent, well, Buffalo wins, in my opinion, if it were that simple. But I think that Andy Reid will scheme the offense even better and find a way to create some mismatches. He'll free up Kelsey more than he has in the last couple of weeks. I think Kansas City does win a close football game.
The Tennessee Titans head to the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are 13-point favorites. This is it's the Monday night game. We can't talk about this. My bad. It just shows up higher on my list because I favorited the Dolphins.
Nope, you're fine. You're not talking about like tragic events and stuff
like
that.
No, I'm not. It's not that awkward. The Buccaneers and the Falcons, Mo. This is for first place in the NFC South. The 5-7 Bucs, the 6-6 Falcons. I'm riding Baker.
I'm going Baker.
Still has a chance to win a division.
Yeah. You know what?
Come on now.
I'm going Baker. Baker is going to solidify himself as their quarterback going forward.
How crazy is this? 5-7, Baker's playing for the division lead. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
It's been that division in itself is wild.
The Colts and the Bengals match up this week. The Colts are 7-5. The Bengals are 6-6. This is one of those prime, potentially knock you out of wild card contention matchups. If the Bengals lose this and fall to 6-7, now they're in a hole, Mo, where they kind of sort of have to win out, right? That's kind of what we're looking at for them. Once you get that 7th loss, you want to get to 10 wins. We think it's going to take 10 wins to get in. And we think that maybe even some 10-win teams may not get in, just based on tiebreakers and what have you. So big game for the Bengals here. I don't know if Jake Browning can do it 2 weeks in a row. I don't know.
I'm leaning Colts. I think the Colts are the grittier, more physical team. They don't always make it pretty, but Minshew does just enough. I think they do just enough in this game, and they find a way to get the win.
Yeah, I'm going to go Colts as well. The 8-4 Jaguars, the 7-5 Browns. Another game where both teams are playing for something here. The Jaguars are trying to. I mean, after that loss last week, the division's right behind them. The Colts are right behind them. The Texans are right behind them. They cannot afford to lose this game, because if the Colts win, they're tied. If the Texans win, they're tied. You don't want a 3-way tie for the AFC South. That's not what the Jaguars are looking for. I don't think the Browns are going to have enough on offense with Flacco. I think that I know that we don't know who's playing quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know that Lawrence is going to try to go. I don't think he's going to play. I think this is going to be a grinded out on the ground kind of game. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I think Jacksonville finds a way 13-10, but I don't think it's going to be pretty.
You know what? Because it's not going to be pretty and it's going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust, that kind of football game, I'm going to go with the old veteran. I say that Flacco does what he's done his whole career: play average to underachieving at sometimes, and then he makes that one big throw and everything's erased. I think the old veteran pulls it out. I think Flacco leads the Browns to a close victory.
If that division is in a 3-way tie after this weekend, that's going to be wild. Absolutely wild.
But aren't we here for that?
We're here. Yeah, we're definitely here for that. And again, I mean, we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers almost the same way we talk about the Cleveland Browns. How are they doing it? The Browns have had 4 different quarterbacks this season. None of them have played particularly well for any
their
given
best player, Nick Chubb, got injured early.
Right. And now we're talking about them potentially going 8-5 and being tied for the division lead going into week 15 of the season. That's absolutely incredible.
You know what? So we talk a lot about football, but usually we talk about the offensive stars, the defensive stars. But when your teams like Pittsburgh and the Browns, that line about all 3 phases, yeah, that's how they're doing it. Special teams and things of that nature, they're creating turnovers or scoring on defense, shortening the field. Like that 3 phases thing, when you look at Pittsburgh and the Browns, that's a real thing.
The 9-3 Lions, the 4-8 Bears. I mean, the last time we saw these two teams play, it was a little ridiculous. I don't know, Mo. I mean, I want to take the Lions here. The line in this game, interestingly enough, is only 3.5. Vegas is not convinced that the Lions can handle business against weaker teams. And even though they're 9-3, it's not like they've lost 4 or 5 games to teams they shouldn't. We've seen them play games really tight where they shouldn't be really tight. I don't think the Lions are going to screw this up. I think they're going to find a way to get to 10 wins, but I think it might be closer than we expect it to be.
I'm with you. I'm going to take the Lions, but I think it will be a close football game. For whatever reason, they're not just putting these teams that are inferior teams away. They're making them football games, but again, they are winning them. So I expect the Lions to find a way to get the win. I think they're going to get a good game from their defense. Their defense has been struggling to get after Fields in that offense. I know last time it was kind of like crazy, but I think they'll find a way to shut it down.
And let's be honest, if you're a Bears fan, and I know that you're riding the Carolina pick right now, hoping that's the number 1 pick, but you don't want your team to win too many more games. I mean, currently they're sitting at 4-8. They're the 5th pick in the draft if it happened today, but they're tied at 4-8 with the Jets, the Giants, and the Titans. So that's 5th through 8th. If you get a 5th win, now you're in potentially double digits for your draft pick, which is not where you want to be if you're the Chicago Bears, potentially looking to reset the season next year. And I get it. They're not going to lose games on purpose, Mo, but there comes a point where, like, you just want to get to the end with the best pick you can get. And upsetting the Lions, Bear fan, that's not what you should be rooting for this weekend.
I would say play your younger guys. Play your young, and I know Fields is one of their younger guys, but play your younger guys on defense and see what you have, right? Who's going to be part of the organization going forward? Get them some experience out there on the field. Like you said, we don't like to use the word tank. Compete, but I'll put it this way: compete, but give yourself an opportunity to get that pick. You know what I mean? Give yourself an opportunity to be in a better drafting position.
Speaking of the Panthers, the 1-11 Panthers play the Saints. If the Saints get to 6-7, a Buccaneers win would put all 3 teams at 6-7 atop of the NFC South with only a handful of games to play. I'm taking the Saints here because the Panthers are awful, and I'm hoping we took the Bucs. So I want it. I want all 6-7.
I'm taking the Saints as well. We're going to get that 6-7 across the board.
The Rams are 6-6. The Ravens are 9-3. The Ravens are coming off of a bye week. It shouldn't be a close game. I think it's going to be closer than people think, but I'm not going. I can't take the Rams in this spot. I don't think they're going to beat the Ravens, but I think it's going to be closer than people think it's going to be, Mo.
I'm going to take the Ravens, but I think Stafford and that offense scare them. I think they're going to make the Ravens work for it. They're not, you know what I mean? They're going to earn this victory because, look, the Ravens have a very good defense, but what Stafford can do when he's right and they're healthy, when they spread you out and they go four wide receivers, that 4 wide receiver set, they pick apart people by finding the mismatch. And I think it's going to be a close football game.
And the Rams, they're 6-6. They're playing for a wild card spot. They have something to play for. I said it.
You early in the year.
I said it.
We were talking about this. I thought the Rams were like a 4-win team. I'll give you credit. Credit where credit is due. You're one of the few, if not the only one, that said the Rams are going to win 8 or more games.
Yeah, and I said they're going to be in the hunt.
Yeah, and I was like, the Rams, and here they are. To your credit.
No, I didn't think that Puka and Atwell were gonna pop off the way they popped off.
Where did he come from?
I don't know, but they found a gem in him, an absolute gem. The Texans and the Jets. Texans are 7-5. They are currently in the playoffs. If the playoffs were to start today, what a story! And it's probably going to be the story of the year. The Houston Texans with C.J. Stroud as their quarterback. Is this, and again, like I don't know why, unless the Jets defense does it, but could this be one of those trap sort of games for the Texans? Because a lot of good things have happened. They beat Denver last week. That was a big playoff, implication kind of game. They moved to 7-5. Now they have the Jets. The Jets aren't a good team. They're going back to Zach Wilson. It looks like Lawrence isn't going to play, so it's opening the door for them to compete for the division, right? There's a lot of things lining up for Houston.
Agreed.
If they can just take care of business against a subpar New York Jets team. But let's not forget, the Jets have a really good defense. They can't really score points, but they have a good defense. So could this be a situation where the Jets defense punches them in the mouth early in the first quarter, and now we're in a tighter game than we thought we were going to be in, and maybe they drop the game? Don't forget, this Jets defense was a big part of them beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, it happens, right? Like, we saw the Patriots offense put up 21 points in 2 quarters last night.
And who expected that?
Correct.
I would have bet you that I didn't know if they were going to put up 21 points for the rest of the season as a total.
Correct. Do you see an upset?
I think this. I love the way you termed this. I think this is setting up for the perfect trap game. Everything's going right in the Texans' world. Stroud is playing well, although they did lose Hank Dale. I don't know if he's with his situation.
He's done. He broke his leg. He's done.
Yeah, so he's gone, and he's one of their deep threats. But they have a lot of weapons. But I think, don't forget, like you said, if the Jets come out and punch them in the mouth early, and they're physical with them, and they shut them down, and they get Stroud a little confused, I think this is a trap game. I'm going to say the unthinkable and say the Jets win a close one.
I'm taking the Jets too. They're talking about CJ Stroud in the MVP conversation now. I mean, literally the Texans, and they've earned it. I'm not saying they haven't earned it. No, they're being talked about in a lot of high places right now. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. I said the Texans were early. They were a year early. Enjoy your success. But I think you're going to have hiccups down the stretch that a better team wouldn't have. I think the Jets are going to get them. I think it's going to be close, and I'm going to say good for Zach Wilson, because I think he's going to have a pretty deep ball in this game. So I think.
I'll say this: if it's close, like I said, if it's close, I like the Jets. I do think this is a perfect trap game. So this isn't any shade against Jackson or against what the Texans and Stroud have done. I've been as impressed with the young man as anybody, but like you said, they're a young team. A lot of things have broke their way. I think this is that game where you kind of get set back a little bit, and I think it's just going to line up that way. So I'm definitely going Jets.
The 6-6 Seahawks play the 9-3 49ers. The Seahawks are in the same position as the Rams and the Vikings. They need to win. They need to win to keep pace.
I actually think this is another trap game.
Yeah, you think so? I think the Niners are going to blow them out.
Wow.
Here's why.
I'm the Niner fan, and I don't feel that way.
Because even though they're coming off the big win against the Eagles, I think the Niners smell blood in the water. And I think that they think they've shown the Cowboys how to beat the Eagles. And now I think they're thinking they're playing for the number 1 seed.
So they're like, we're going to win, and then the Dallas is going to win.
Correct.
And,
I think they think they're playing for the 1 seed now.
And they might think that way, but I'm looking at Seattle. I'm going, Seattle's like, well, we still need to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
right?
Seattle's hungry. They need it.
They need it. And the history of this rivalry has been more times than not, there's been a split. And I know what happened in the first game, but the likelihood of the second game playing out like the first game, it's not likely. I think you will get a better punt, Seattle Seahawks. I'm not saying the Niners are going to play awful. I just think the Seattle Seahawks will find a way to win a close game.
All right, so you think we'd ever split on a Niners game like that?
Isn't that crazy? I know. It's crazy.
Speaking
I'm not a
Vikings,
traitor, Niner Nation. I'm not a traitor.
Speaking of the Vikings, they are playing the Raiders this week. I think the Vikings are going to take care of business. I think Josh Dobbs is going to calm the fan base down. I think they're going to score, 21, 24 points, and everything is going to be okay for another week, and they'll still be in the wild card hunt.
I'm still on the Josh Dobbs train. I think Josh Dobbs is going to
and Jefferson's back this week. That's
big. So with Addison, with Jefferson, I think they'll make enough plays that they win the football game.
The 6-6 Broncos, the 5-7 Chargers. The Broncos are also clinging to hope for a wild card. Technically, the Chargers are mathematically still alive, but when you only score 6 points against the New England Patriots and your offense looks absolutely abysmal, I'm going to say that the Broncos, even though it's going to be, we know it's going to be. It's going to be 24 for 28 for 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's going to be the stat line. But I think the Broncos are going to take it.
Hey, the manage the clock Sean Payton offense is going to be back in effect. And like you said, Russ is going to throw and maybe have 3 incompletions. They're going to win the football game. His stat line's not going to blow you away, but they're going to find a way to win the football game.
And then, of course, we have the big one, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. And Mo, I said this at the beginning of the week. Losing to the Niners is not a big deal just by itself. If it's just that one game and that one situation, it is what it is. And I've always been a bigger proponent of I would rather get destroyed than lose a close game. Because as a fan, you lose a close game, you start saying, man, if just this happened or this happened, we probably should have won. You lose by 30, you can say, we never had a chance.
Right.
It didn't matter. We weren't in it. It is what it is. Throw it away and move on. It doesn't matter if the Eagles beat the Cowboys. If the Eagles lose to Dallas, and now the number 1 seed is no longer locked in, and the Detroit Lions win, and the San Francisco 49ers win, and now you're all 10-3. And oh, by the way, the Cowboys are also 10-3. So now your division is in question. This is a huge game for the Eagles. And I'm not saying the players and the team don't realize this, but Mo, you've seen how Eagle fans are talking this week. I don't think they realize the predicament they're going to be in if they lose. And I get it. Dallas has a history of not winning big games. Dak Prescott has a history of crumbling in the biggest moments. I understand all of that. And there's a reason why we say these things, because it's happened. But how can you look at a Dallas team that is playing at home for this game, that is playing as well as they're playing, with Dak playing the best football since his rookie season, and look at that game and be like, it's Dallas, we got this? Because Philly, I'll tell you right now, if you don't got this, you went from literally cruising to a 1 seed in the NFC and making it to the NFC Championship with the road going through Philly 2 weeks ago to now you're going to be, is Dallas going to win the division? Is Dallas going to get the 1 seed?
It's a big game for both teams.
That's a huge swing, Mo. That's a huge swing.
You know what, though? Here's the interesting part about this, though. If Philly loses, it's a blow, but it doesn't end their season. Like, I think Philly can bounce back and go forward. If Dallas loses, I don't care what their overall record is. I think it's one of those kind of blows that could literally just stagger their whole season. Because
if you're Dallas, you're not if you're Dallas, you're like, oh, it's ours for the taking, right?
Right.
If you're Dallas, it's we almost beat them last time. Dak played great last time.
Right.
Now we're at home. Dak's in the MVP conversation. CeeDee Lamb is saying he's the best wide receiver in the league. It's all there for us. All we got to do is go beat them, and we're in first place. And
Right.
and the things that Jerry Jones would say. Oh, boy, oh, boy.
Oh, Jerry wants this so bad. He does. It's lining up for the Cowboys, but you know what? I'm gonna pick the Eagles. I gotta see it to believe it, and I haven't seen Dallas beat them. And look, everything says Dallas should win. It's lining up that way. They're at home. Like I said, I really think this is one of those things that could propel them or could stall them out. I think the Eagles surprise everybody and find a way to get a win on the road.
This is the turning point for the Dallas Cowboys this season. I don't know who they play after the Eagles. I really don't care, to be honest with you, because if they lose this game to the Eagles, I think they're going to lose the next game as well. I think that you're going to see a hangover and just an emotional letdown. They play the Buffalo Bills after this game. Then they play the Miami Dolphins. Then they play the Detroit Lions. This is a huge game for Dallas. If Dallas loses to the Eagles, I think they lose to the Bills. And now you're on a 2-game losing streak going into Miami.
They could lose to Miami too.
Correct. Like, it's going to set you up for a lot of hurt over your next 3 games. I'm going with Dallas because it doesn't often line up for the Cowboys like this. And if they don't make it happen this weekend, Mo, I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs, but I'm saying I think they're going to limp into the playoffs if they don't figure it out this weekend and finally climb to the top of that mountain.
I'm with you 100%. That's why I think this game means everything.
And boy, oh boy, Dallas Cowboy fan will be insufferable if they win this weekend.
Well, there's another component, right? There's that.
Oh. And then Eagle fan, we know some Eagles fans. We are going to have to do some wellness checks on Eagle fans if they lose this game, because losing to the Niners and the Cowboys in back-to-back weekends, no, it's not going to be good for them.
That could be they're going to need some therapy. Maybe. Like I said, I think the Eagles of the two teams can weather that blow better than the Cowboys can. I do. I think they've got a little bit more metal to them. So should they lose, even though I'm picking them to win, I think the Eagles, they won't be on one of those hangovers where they'll lose the next game too. I think they will respond.
Well, and also the Eagles' schedule lightens up. I mean, after the Cowboys, they got the Seahawks. That's the last tough game on their schedule. They close the season Giants, Cardinals, Giants. So... I mean,
3 wins in a row.
Yeah, book those 3 wins for the Eagles.
Right.
They're gonna be at least a 12-win team this season. Sure. So yeah, it is. It's more important for Dallas, especially with the upcoming schedule for Dallas. So we'll see. The ratings for that game are probably going to be through the freaking roof.
They're gonna be insane.
So I'm excited for this entire football weekend. And then of course we have the Monday night doubleheader, the Giants and the Packers, the Dolphins and the Titans. I don't know if either of them are going to be great games. But I'm watching Miami because of the intrigue. And the intrigue is, what does Tyreek do, right? Right.
That's the intrigue. I'm watching for that. So that's the intrigue. That's the draw. You want to see what Tyreek Hill does because he's chasing 2,000 yards. That's why I'm watching that game. The other game, I'll watch it for as long as I can stand it.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Manning cast will be on Monday night, and they'll be doing both games at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So double duty for the Manning brothers.
You know what? For what it's worth, I find them entertaining. Just the way they interact and go back and forth. Those cats are actually really entertaining.
Hey, Tua was on there this past Monday. He was playing the guitar, which, by the way, Tua does everything right-handed except for throw a football.
That's interesting. He plays the guitar right-handed.
He golfs right-handed. He writes right-handed. Right?
He's a different guy.
That's what I'm saying. He's a different dude. All right, Mo. What a great show for a Friday. Let's close this out, sir.
Appreciate you guys for checking us out this morning. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Check out all the great content that we have to offer at Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Make sure you're back here Monday where we are going to break down everything that happened in a sure-to-be insane NFL weekend. if Ohtani signs with the damn Blue Jays this weekend. I promise I'll be here Monday, but I'm not going to be happy about it. But maybe you want to tune in to see that. I don't know. I don't know how sick and twisted
Well, we want to tune in for sure to see your reaction and what JG says.
I mean, yeah, JG will be here Monday. Apparently, it's happening today, Mo. They're saying he's going to sign somewhere today and that Toronto's still in it. I don't know how, but we'll see. Maybe he wants to be the face of Canada. I don't know.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, I don't know. But we'll see you guys Monday morning. Make sure you're here with us. Have a great weekend until we see you again.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any